Hello, welcome. This is Professor Cameron here. I want to talk to you a little bit about marijuana and some things that are going on with marijuana these days that have happened fairly recently. So right now it's 2014, and a lot of things have happened in the marijuana trade. As we know, that Washington and Colorado have legalized marijuana, and that opens up the doors for a lot of things to happen. You know, a lot of us that are in the marijuana treatment business are faced with our clients saying, well, it's natural, and after all, it's legal in Colorado and Washington, and I want to, have a dispensary, and I want to do edibles and have my own bakery and live in Boulder. And yeah, sounds like a real good dream, doesn't it? But so a lot of things have happened with that. Let's talk about K2 real quick. K2 spice and synthetics. Man, a lot of the kids were using that not too long ago. But guess what? I think the K2 thing is coming to a close, or at least it's dying down a lot. Here's why. The high that a person gets on K2 is just so severe. I mean, people wig out. Some people have gone into some very hard hallucinogenic episodes. And a lot of people just get freaked out, basically. It exceeds kind of the type of high that the marijuana person wants. Okay, I mean, it's almost like salvia. I mean, who smokes salvia? You can buy salvia at Lowe's or Home Depot as ground cover. But yet a lot of kids don't smoke salvia. I mean, you can do it. It'll get you just throat as could be for 7 to 10 minutes and couch locked, and you kind of come out of it. Again, because of the severity of the high, people just don't do salvia. People will, or even your most dedicated weed smokers are very against K2 spice and JWH018 and others. And some of those spice products are like sprayed leaves, man. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. So now we have legalization. We have what? The invention of dabs. Not so much the invention, but now the popularization of dabs. Okay, and again, this is a form of hash oil or weed that is synthesized and produced in that it'll have a consistency. It's put on a nail. You hit it with a high torch, or you can vape. You can vape the dabs, and what happens is that one dab hit equals, who knows, 2, 3, 4, 5 joints even per hit. Okay, now here's the deal with dabs, is that I don't think it's a fad. Some people will say, well, it's a fad because it's so strong, but it's not. It's still weed, it's still hash, it's still in the cannabinoid camp, right? It's very strong and very potent. But what's happening with the dabs are kids start using maybe one session, and then they do it multiple times a day. Now, if those kids that are dabbing and they mix that with any kind of medicine, benzodiazepine like Xanax, or even worse, ADD medicine like Adderall, man, I have had kids in the practice that have dabbed or dabbed out and used their Adderall and became psychotic. Now, I'm not saying this to be like reefer madness or dab madness, but that's the truth. So I encourage some of you folks to Google probably every week dab overdose or those things. That's another thing, that marijuana, you could never overdose because it's a mild hallucinogen. I don't know. I think this whole dabs situation kind of takes us to that breaking point, even with cannabis, that people are in essence overdosing or really dosing so hard to the point that their brains just can't recover. And that's when you have problems there. Another thing about the dabs is that part of it, to get it to the consistency, you have to use butane. That's right, butane. Where do you find butane? Lighters, right? It's kind of a fuel. What happens when you snort gas or snort fuel? Right, it causes frontal lobe damage, right? We know that. We've seen people back in the day that would sniff glue and gas and those things, and they would sniff it and go right to the frontal lobes and cause immediate brain damage. Now, if you smoke the butane, it still gets to the brain and still causes brain damage, even though it's gone through the lungs and hitting the bloodstream at a different level. it still is going to go to the part of the brain and cause the damage to the part of the brain. And I think a lot of kids will say, yeah, man, it kind of smelled like gas or something when I was dabbing. Yeah, you had some bad dabs where they didn't refine it and they left butane on it and they didn't burn off the excess butane. So yeah, there it is. So, you know, something that's all of a sudden legal and healthy sure is dangerous, sure is causing kids to flip out, sure is causing kids to take their marijuana game to a high level. I mean, who needs to smoke a blunt? I mean, who wants to have a one-hitter anymore? Who's going to have a bong just to, you know, pass the bong and be all social? Man, a lot of these kids are taking it to a high level with the dabs. Lastly is, well, since it's legal, we're going to tax it and everybody's going to live happily ever after. Really? Let's look at this. Let's look at Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, Mothers Against High Drivers, and other grassroots organizations that are going to modify the driving under the influence laws, and they're going to fill the people with the high drivers. Fill jails, not fill the people, but fill the jails with people who are now driving under the influence, right? Because if you're stoned and you're driving and, yeah, something happens and they test you and you're stoned, it's still a DUI, right? So again, I don't think it's this panacea. I think then you're going to see, for instance, only certain segments of marijuana will be legal, but if you're in possession of a whole quantity or all these gallons or gummy bear of dabs and whatever else, you're still going to go to federal prison. We're still going to go to prison, you know? So it's not quite the panacea that once was. So interesting time. 2014, we'll see how things develop. We'll see if dabs is a fad. I don't think so. I think what it'll do, it's a defining moment in a marijuana user's career. It'll separate the men from the boys, and that, man, those dabbers are going to be the hardcore people, and there will always people that'll be smoking weed. Don't get me wrong, there'll be people that'll do that, and they'll kind of hover at that low level. But the people that are the abusers and the thrill seekers, and the people looking for a more ultimate head high and body high, are going to be using the dabs. Well, anyway, that's all I have for now. Thanks for listening, and don't be too mean on your comments. You know, I got some haters out there, but hey, say what you got to say. But you know, and we'll get to the comments. All right, thanks a lot.